In the 16th century, the Pope banned a small, seemingly simple book. The text was Niccolo Machiavelli's The Prince. It was blacklisted because it contained highly effective instructions for controlling human behavior. Machiavelli stripped away any pretense of morality. He looked at people as programmable machines, exposing the raw mechanics of psychological leverage that rulers use to maintain power. Today, we like to think our purchasing decisions are based on careful logic and free will. But look at the massive crowd moving through any major city intersection, and you are watching a population whose choices are heavily manufactured. Top-tier marketers, salespeople, and negotiators actively deploy Machiavelli's exact historical playbook to guide your wallet. You need to understand how these translations work. Recognizing the strategy is the only way to protect your money, or if you're the one selling, to ethically master persuasion yourself. The modern business landscape operates on the exact same principles as Renaissance political geography. We've just swapped out swords for psychological tactics. The manipulation starts long before anyone pitches a product. By the time a confident closer steps into the room, they are already structuring the hierarchy of the conversation. They execute a tactic called authentic framing. A standard vendor approaches you begging for your business. A master seller repositions themselves as a selective, trusted advisor who is evaluating whether you are a fit for them. This chart shows the difference. Most sales operate on a horizontal line. The vendor and buyer have equal status. The Machiavellian approach builds a vertical pyramid, placing the advisor firmly at the apex, looking down at both the buyer and their problem. Once authority is established, the seller initiates narrative control. A Renaissance prince secured his borders before a battle, and a closer isolates the buyer from outside opinions in exactly the same way. This opaque wall shuts out external noise and creates a localized reality. Inside this perimeter, the buyer only trusts the data points and metrics provided by the seller. Before a single dollar is ever discussed, the psychological hierarchy is completely rigged in the seller's favor. With the hierarchy set, the actual presentation begins. Machiavelli noted that people surrender their power most easily when they believe they are acting on their own free will. This leads to the illusion of choice. Instead of forcing a yes or no ultimatum, the seller presents a highly curated set of options, branching out into 3 distinct paths. The first path is a deliberate decoy, offering too little value. The third path is an extreme anchor, priced so high it shocks your system. This leaves the illuminated middle, the predetermined the seller wanted you to pick all along. By forcing your brain to evaluate the differences between the options, the seller distracts with critical thinking. You stop questioning whether you should buy at all, and focus entirely on which path to take. It is a closed psychological loop. The buyer feels empowered, but they are authoring their own defeat. Now comes the climax of the transaction. The buyer has selected an option, but the natural hesitation and anxiety over spending money peaks. To push them over the edge, the closer deploys manufactured urgency, deliberately weaponizing the fear of missing out. By introducing a sudden, artificial deadline, like limited stock or an expiring discount, the seller short-circuits the buyer's ability to logically analyze the deal. Then comes the final counterintuitive maneuver, the strategic retreat. Right as the tension is highest, the seller suddenly pulls away and feigns total indifference to whether the deal closes or not. This causes psychological whiplash. When the seller abruptly lifts off, the buyer crashes down out of equilibrium, panics, and actively starts chasing the seller to secure the transaction. The target eagerly signs the paperwork, firmly believing they have won a hard-fought negotiation. The power transfer is absolute. The target has willingly locked themselves inside the cage. There is a distinct boundary separating ethical influence from dark manipulation. Normal selling operates on a mutually beneficial win-win structure. Machiavellian sales psychology exists entirely to strip away the target's agency and take total control. Machiavelli didn't invent evil. He documented static flaws in human behavior, blind spots that have remained unchanged for 500 years. Knowing these tactics acts as a defensive shield. Consumers can use this awareness to protect their wallets and maintain their mental autonomy when stepping into a high-pressure environment. And for professionals operating in cutthroat markets, mastering these specific techniques offers an unfair, highly realistic advantage over the competition. Once you learn to see the matrix of these 5 tactics in everyday life, the illusion shatters. You can never be played the exact same